Today we will be learning how to multiply binomials. Remember, a binomial is a polynomial with two terms. So I'll show you two methods today for multiplying a binomial by a binomial. First is the FOIL method. FOIL is just a way to remember how to multiply the binomials. So I'm going to color code this. FOIL. F stands for first, which is going to tell you to multiply the first two terms in the two binomials. O stands for outside, and that will tell you to multiply the two outside terms. So multiplying the first terms gives you x squared. Outside would be the two outside terms. So in this case, x times 1. And that gives you 1x. I stands for inside. Oops, I forgot to write outside here. Outside. Then inside. So you're going to multiply the two inside terms. 3 times x. That gives you 3x. And the L stands for last, where you'll multiply the last two terms. So 3 times 1. And that gives you 3. So after you multiply first, outside, inside, last, then you just simplify. So we have like terms, 1x and 3x. So after combining like terms, we have x squared plus 4x plus 3. So when you multiply a binomial by a binomial, your answer is a trinomial. So here we combined the like terms. Remember, combine means to add. Okay, so let's use the FOIL method to multiply these binomials. Number 1. First is x times x, which is x squared. Outside is x times negative 4, which is negative 4x. Inside, 5 times x, positive 5x. And last, 5 times negative 4, which is negative 20. Now we combine like terms. And we have x squared plus 1x minus 20. Number 2. First, 7x times 3x. So remember, you multiply the coefficients, which is 21, and then x times x is x squared. Outside, 7x times negative 8 is negative 56x. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. And negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. Add the like terms. So we have 21x squared minus 59x, because we're adding, plus 8. So you'll notice the pattern here when we do these steps is step 1, we multiply. Step 2, we're adding the like terms. So when we're multiplying, you are changing exponents. But when you add, do not change the exponents. because you're just combining like terms. So remember, step 1, multiply, you are changing exponents because when you multiply, you have to add the exponents. But in the second step, when you're just combining like terms, do not change the exponents. Okay, that's method 1. Method 2 is the box method. So when we're multiplying a binomial by a binomial, you're going to draw a 2 by 2 box. You're going to write the polynomial on the top and side, and then multiply and combine like terms. So if you've done in science class a Punnett square, this will remind you of that. So I'm going to draw a 2 by 2 box. And I'll write my first one across the top, x plus 3, and the second one down the side. It doesn't matter which one goes on top and which one goes on the side. Now, where the box lines up, you're going to multiply. So in this first top left box, I'm going to multiply 4x times x, which gives me 4x squared. In the top right box, I'll multiply 4x times 3, which is 12x. Bottom left, multiply negative 7x. Bottom right is negative 21. So I've multiplied and written my answers inside the box. Now that I've done that, I'm going to add the like terms. So I'm going to circle these like terms. So that is what I'm going to add together. So remember, when I multiplied, I was changing exponents. Now that I'm adding, I'm no longer changing exponents. So my answer will be 4x squared. And after I add the like terms, I have plus 5x minus 21. Let's use the box method for number 4. So I have 5x plus 3 and 2x plus 3. 2x times 5x is 10x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 5x times 3 is 15x. And 3 times 3 is 9. The like terms are 15x and 6x, so I'm going to add those together. My answer is 10x squared plus 21x plus 9. So I just want to go over a couple of common things you might see when you're multiplying binomials. So you may see a difference of squares and you may see a perfect square trinomial. I'm going to put a little disclaimer up here. So these are just common things you might see. And you could recognize the pattern, and that might help you go a little faster. However, if you just do FOIL or box, you're going to get that answer. So a difference of squares is when you have the exact same numbers, except in the first binomial, they're being added, and the second, they're being subtracted, or vice versa. But one of the binomials is adding, one of the binomials is subtracting. You will always get the answer of a squared minus b squared. So let's look at one example. I have 3x and 7. In the first binomial, they're being added. In the second binomial, they're being subtracted. So I'll do FOIL first. So multiplying 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Multiplying 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. 7 times 3x is positive 21x. And 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. So adding the like terms, you'll notice that these two cancel out because that makes this 0. So my final answer is 9x squared minus 49. Now, you'll notice that if I would have just recognized that that was a difference of squares, I could have just said 3x times 3x is 9x squared, and 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. But again, you don't need to memorize that rule, just use one of the methods and you'll still get that answer. So this is the case where you'll multiply a binomial by a binomial and your answer will not be a trinomial. It will be another binomial. Only happens when you have a difference of squares. Now let's talk about when you have a perfect square trinomial. So let's look at number 6 before we go over the rule. 2x plus 7 squared. Now, we only see one binomial there. So where's the other one? What you need to remember is that this means 2x plus 7 times 2x plus 7. Okay, so remember what squared means? X squared is the same as x times x. So that's why we would just multiply that binomial because it's that binomial squared. For this one, I'll use the box method. So I have 2x plus 7 and 2x plus 7. So I end up with 4x squared, 14x, 14x, and 49. These two can be added together. So my answer is 4x squared plus 28x plus 49. So you will notice that the first term is squared. That gives us 4x squared. The second term is 2 times a times b. So because we had 2x and 7, 2x times 7 times 2 is 28. And then the last one is b squared. 7 squared is 49. So again, these are just rules that help you see the pattern, but you really don't need to memorize it because you're going to get the right answer if you do the method, one of the methods correctly. Okay, now what if we want to multiply a binomial by a trinomial? You can use the same methods, but you're going to have an extra step. So let's use FOIL. FOIL doesn't work as well as an acronym when you're multiplying a binomial and a trinomial because you do have to distribute 3 times from the first term, and then you have to distribute 3 times from the second term. So let me back this up. First, I would multiply x times x squared. That gives me x cubed. X times 7x is 7x squared. And x times negative 10 is negative 10x. Now I'm going to distribute the second term. 4 times x squared is 4x squared. 4 times 7x is 28x. And 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. So now I've multiplied. When you're multiplying, you're adding the exponents. Now I'm going to combine like terms, And remember, when you're combining like terms and you're adding, we are no longer changing exponents. We are just identifying the like terms and adding the coefficients. So my first term will be x cubed, because I always want to start with the highest exponent. There are no like terms, so I'm just going to bring down x cubed. The second highest exponent will be 2, so I have 7x squared and 4x squared. When I add those together, I get 11x squared. The next term would be negative 10x and positive 28x. Negative 10 plus 28 is positive 18. And then the last term, there's only one constant, so just bring that down. Number 8, let's use the box method. So if I'm multiplying a binomial by a trinomial, I need a 2 by 3 box. So I'm going to make a rectangle. And I'll write the binomial down the side, 4x minus 3, and the trinomial across the top, 2x squared minus 3x plus 6. Now, same thing, you're going to multiply where these terms meet in that box. So 2x squared times 4x is 8x cubed. 4x times negative 3x is negative 12x squared. And 4x times 6 is 24x. 2x squared times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. Negative 3 times negative 3x is positive 9x. And negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. Now let's look at the like terms. I can add the x squareds, and I can add the x's. So I'm no longer changing exponents when I'm adding. So my answer will be 8x cubed minus 18x squared after I combine those, plus 33x after I add those, minus 18. So in your practice today, you will be multiplying binomials, and there will be a few problems where you multiply a binomial by a trinomial, and you can use whichever method you prefer.